Students, here I am to teach you for CUET exam political science so that you can progress with excellence, you can perform with excellence in your entrance exam. So, first and foremost is what is the CUET exam pattern? The CUET exam pattern available in 13 languages and there are total 50 questions in the entrance exam, but you have to solve only 40 questions and each question carry 2 marks. So there are total 200 marks and one negative marking for each wrong question. And for all the 40 questions to solve you have 45 minutes, and this question is MCQ based question. So this is the exam pattern that you have to follow. Now let's come to the next thing. What are the career options after graduation in political science? So we all know after graduating in political science there are a lot of career options, but first and foremost is the civil services. Civil services is very prestigious exam. You all know humanities branch student aspire to become an IAS and IPS. So in this exam you can choose political science as your optional subject, and in GS2 paper 2 political science a whole separate paper, and it's essay also it's help you a lot, and even for understanding written latest scenario, political activities, political science helps you a lot. And the second is public policy and administration. Not only in government services, but there are a lot of government organization also that offers job to political graduates. They need someone who has expertise in political science, in legislation research also, or public policy formation also. So here also a public studied student, a graduated from political science can aspire to get a job. And the third is the international relation and diplomacy, an IR students, a branch of political science. You can go for it not only through an IFS, Indian Foreign Services, but there are a lot of international organization or multinational organization also can get also needed students who had political science in their as their subjects. So there also you can get an opportunity. Some of the students of political science go for law. After their graduation in politics they go for LLB and become an advocate. It's also a choice you can make. And the next is as a political analyst and a consultant. What is that means? It means that what is the recent term, what is the political trends and electoral analysis. Here we need a political science or politics graduate who had a knowledge in politics. So here also you can get an opportunity as a journalism and media journalist. Those who had a political science knowledge or political science background, they had some little edge over others because they had a better understanding of political scenarios of country and how things work, and how what are the ideologies of international organization and how these country works. So there also you are in upper hand. And teaching and academics where after your graduation you can go for your post graduation, and even you can qualify NET and GRF exam. Through these you can go for assistant professorship after your PhD. In lower level also after your graduation you can go for teaching through B.Ed examination also. So these are the option in international. And one other option is human rights as a socialist worker, like non-governmental organization. These organization work with government policies. They work with how to formulate policies. So here you can also contribute as that. In private sector also, like those who are as a private sector, like some of the government policy like corporate social responsibilities. So here is also role of someone who has a knowledge in political science or politics. So there is a lot of career opportunities. You can work as a think search or research organization also. You can work in policy research making and entrepreneurship you can make. So these all are the career option that you can, any of the option you can choose after your graduation. Even during your graduation you can explore what I can do. Within even my college days you can work for internship in any organization where you can get an experience on how these things work. So these are the options that you, any of the options you can go for, or something other that you wanted to aspire. So these all from my side. I will teach you about politics in India because we live in India, so we will start with India. So politics in India since independence, that yellow NCRT book is my base. So I will teach you first the challenge of nation building. This is the first chapter of this book, challenge of nation building. So mostly we will focus on what we will come in exam in MCQ base. So most we will focus how we will frame this question, how this will come in the examination. So because this exam is more based on the fact basis, you have to solve through the MCQ. Now let's start with the first topic is challenge of nation building. So as India got independence on 14-15 August 1947, and Jawaharlal Nehru after the independence addressed a special session on Constitution Assembly at that time, that was called he delivered a very famous speech that called Tryst with Destiny, where we all know that the Nehru addressed the country that India was awakened when the whole world is sleeping, this and that. So you guys have heard it about this before also. So this is how we got independence. But India's independence comes with a cost. What does it cost? It cost is India's partition. India lost major chunk of its territory of western area that become a Pakistan, that called West Pakistan, later called Pakistan, and lot of people displaced, became refuge, and lot of violence was witnessed at that time. So this is the first and foremost challenge in front of India. Now come to the next slide. Partition and its bitter consequences. First is the India is divided. We all know that after 1947, a traumatic event, that India was divided on the two territory, India and Pakistan. So a lot of Hindu minorities who were lived in Lahore came to India, and a lot of Muslim population in India went to Pakistan. So the transition of people was not smooth. A lot of people lost their life. Some of the women were raped, killed. A lot of houses were looted. So this is the scenario as at that time. So this division was very painful for the people, and lot of people, approximately according to the reports, 80 million people were displaced during this partition, because Hindu minority living in Lahore believe that now this country declared as an Islamic country, so it's truly not possible to live for such a Hindu minority population. So they came to India, and a lot of Muslim population went to Pakistan. So this clash of border was seen in personal life also. Some of the area became a communal center, like Amritsar and Kolkata become a communal zone. A lot of communal violence were happened at this place. Even Gandhiji went to Kolkata to convince people about it and not to do any such a violence means also. So and a lot of Punjab and Bengal non-Muslim were killed in a large number. So these minority problem affect both side of border in those area. When the partition was decided, so many Muslim population like Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Northwest Frontier, who also called a Frontier Gandhi, was totally against this partition. But this happened and India and Pakistan was divided, but lot of Muslim population were decided to remain in a country. They not wanted to go to Pakistan. So here is the what is the challenge of in front of government. First is the rehabilitation, because as I discussed you earlier, the 80 lakh people were displaced. The first foremost challenge is infrastructure, because we are also newly independent. We don't had that infrastructure to rehabilitate and provide food, safety and shelter to such a large population. Lot of people from Pakistan who are migrated from Pakistan came to Delhi and living in Lajpat Langan and surrounding area in a refugee camp. So it was a government challenge to how we will rehabilitate these people, because they lost their life, they have nothing left with them. And the second challenge is challenge of integration. What is the challenge of integration? Integration means how we will integrate such a different population. We know that Pakistan declared itself as a Islamic country, but India, we Indians not declared ourselves as an Hindu country. We declared ourselves as a secular country. India called itself a secular nation. As a secular nation, that we will integrate all the religious people, either they were Hindu, Muslim, Sikh or Isai. So many population, one interesting fact is that during 1951, 12% of Muslim population remained in a country. So it was also a challenge that how we will integrate such a population, and how we will not let them the communal violence happen against, and this communal thing will not affect the majority of Indian population. And the third is the legacy of trauma. What does it mean? The legacy of trauma means those who lost their lives, and some near and dear ones, some of the children lost their families. This created a psychological scars that how we will overcome this horrible memory of partition, and how these people will live a simple and happy life in a country. So these are the challenges before interim government, that infrastructure issue, integration issue, and how we will overcome and how we will erase the trauma memory. So these three are the foremost challenge in a rehabilitation or after independence due to the partition. Now let's come to the next slide. After partition of India and after the rehabilitation, all these things, the next challenge in front of interim government is integration of princely state. What is princely state? I hope you heard this word before also. Princely state were those states who are independent in their internal affair but chosen to remain in British paramountcy. But after the partition happened and British left the countries, they had given a choice either to join India or Pakistan or remain independent. But these option will affect the India's unity and country, because at that time there was 565 princely state, or if they will remain independent, so there will be no point for integration or a united country like India. So we want to integrate these princely state into India, and for this matter, who called in front? Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. From the government side, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, also called the Iron Man of India, he played a very crucial role in integration of these princely states. Through his diplomacy, he tried to integrate those. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a deputy prime minister, and home minister at the time. So, how he integrated princely state? He was approached princely state sometime with power, sometime with love, sometime with some sorts of concession also. So first thing he said that the people of India wanted to integrate with India, not wanted to remain with the state. And the second is he assured these princely states ruler that there will be some flexible autonomy will be granted to them, that central government will not declare all its control over them and snatched all his power and property. So later on, privy purse were granted. That later Indira Gandhi was abandoned it. So these are the offer that he given to these princely state. But the integration was not smooth. There is a lot of issues happened with these states rulers, because a lot of religious and political consideration was also had to taken place in integration of these states. So here I am giving you example of two princely states, that how they got integrated into India. So these two case studies, first is the Hyderabad issue. That Hyderabad ruler called Nizam, because Nizam used to rule Hyderabad. Nizam was richest man in the country at that time. He has a lot of wealth, and Nizam has a religious, and he had some personal ambitions that he don't wanted to integrate into India. He wanted to go to Pakistan, but the Hyderabad geographical area was surrounded by Indian territory, so it was not, neither it was feasible nor it was smooth to integrate into a Pakistan, because it was surrounded by Indian territory. But Nizam wanted to go to Pakistan. So and his army that called Razak, Nizam personal army, done a lot of atrocities against the peasants. What these peasants? These peasants were the majority population of the Hyderabad, And Nizam also had a fear of plebiscite, so he ordered them to expel those peasants, Hindu peasants mostly, because he wanted, even if the plebiscite happened, so it's favor in integration into Pakistan, not to remain into in India. So these are the things that he did at that time. Standstill agreement with India was signed in 1947, but he was not ready to integrate into the country. But the merger was signed when Indian army controlled over the Hyderabad and paramilitary forces of Razak were subducted. So this is how that Hyderabad was integrated by Indian army, and later on the India was merged into India. And the second one interesting issue is Manipur integration. How Manipur was integrated. So Manipur was ruled by a ruler called Bodh Chand Singh. So Bodh Chand Singh signed an instrument of accession with the government of India on the basis that he assured that the internal autonomy will be granted to the Maharaj. So he was agreed to at that time. But later on, when the election was held in Manipur in 1948, and the state turned into constitution monarchy, later into constitutional government, so it's really against the promises, and population in Manipur was many population of Manipur was against it. So this is how these two states were integrated into India. And later on, Maharaja, by the force and by the convenience, he accepted and signed the merger agreement in September 1949. So this is how the integration was done. But this caused a lot of anger and resentment in Manipur, because a lot of section of population wanted to remain like autonomy. They wanted not interference of the government. But for a newly independent country, it's not an easy task to just give a lot of autonomy to a native states. So this is how these two states were integrated. And a Kashmir issue, a very famous issue, we will study in further chapters, so I'm not teaching you here about it. So this is how these two states were integrated. And now let's come to the next slide, the reorganization issue. How India was reorganized. Reorganization of state addressing linguistic diversity. So the process of nation building was not come to an end with the partition or integration of the princely state. There's a lot of things come to be happen, and the first is how we will draw the boundaries of state, because it's just not a matter of administration division, because we had to draw a boundary of state, because as earlier India was ruled by the colonial power, and British used to rule states according to the area they annexed, or just for their administration convenience. So they had no love and sympathy to the people of country. So just they rule as they feel it easier for them. So but now we had to draw a boundary such a way that it not only for administrative convenience, but also for the taking care of people's feeling also, because as a India we had a lot of pride for our own linguistics identity, our old culture. So these all things also had to taken care of. After all these things, there are a lot of agitation and demand were started by the a lot of territorial representative for their independent state, or for state on this linguistic basis or that religious basis. So this is how states demand were started. So earlier also in Nagpur session of Congress in 1920, basis for reorganization of state, basis of linguistic zones were not followed. They were against the linguistic basis, because if we will follow a linguistic basis of state, then other things like administration developments issue will be far behind. But we had to take in care of administration first, rather than just for the basis of or sake of linguistic or cultural identity. But there are a lot of national leader protest started. First is Telugu speaking area in old Madras provinces, which called Tamil Nadu in present. One protest was called Vishalandhara movement, the movement of separate Andhra Pradesh. So they demanded a separate state for Telugu speaking people, and they wanted to separate it from the Madras provinces. So these demands were started by them, and later on a movement of Potti Sirimamulu, a Congress leader, a veteran Gandhian, who started an agitation that after 56 days of hunger strike, he died. So now government was forced to announce a separate state, and this is how in 1952 December Andhra Pradesh, first linguistic state, came into existence. But the Andhra Pradesh was declared. Other states were also demanding for the state autonomy, for the separate state on their linguistic basis. So State Reorganization Act, reorganization body was formed. So State Reorganization Commission in 1953 was formed. What is its main task? Its main task is to question, and the main question is to redrawing the boundaries of state. That how the boundary of state will be drawn, and it should be reflect the boundaries of different languages. And they recent and State Reorganization Act passed in 1956, and this act of 1956 led to the creation of 14 states and 6 UTs, union territories. So this is how the state boundaries were formed. A lot of commission, and later on again an commission was formed to formulate the India's boundary, and it was not an easy task at the time, because no one wants to compromise on their cultural identity. Everyone want their own state. So for a leader of India, is very much a question how we will conserve the India's unity with giving the religious and regional identity. So this is how we created 14 states. But the story not end here. Even after the reorganization of state, on the there are a lot of state demanded their own. Here in next slide we will see this. After this state reorganization act, sooner or later other states were also demanding their state. A popular agitation was started in different states on basis of different identity. Maharashtrian identity, Punjabiyat culture also, they wanted their own state. Haryana culture also. So every state in east state also, they wanted their own states. So everyone, why they are demanding it? They wanted to conserve their identity. They didn't wanted to erase it. They wanted their own autonomy on their internal affairs also, and they wanted to highlight their culture. They don't wanted to mix it with. But the concern of leaders and the concern of policymaker is that if we will give a different state, a different zone, that how we will call it a secular nation, and how we will call it a identity of India, and how we will integrate different section into a one nation, and how that will create a tolerance, togetherness in Indian society, a fraternity that we are Primbal has called that we are a federal nation, we are a nation of who had believed in tolerance. So these all the issue, but a lot of issue and political agitation and protests were started. And later on, after that, Maharashtra and Gujarat were divided. Gujarati language and Maharashtrian culture were clashed with each other. In 1960, a different state, Gujarat, formed from the Maharashtra. After it, a lot of states are also demanding, like Punjabi speaking, demanding their separate state. They had said that Hindu were destroying their their culture, their religion, their culture. So Punjabi culture wanted to conservation. They wanted to separate state, but this demand was not fulfilled very easily. In 1966, Haryana and Punjab separated from the larger Punjab area. So when Haryana and Himachal Pradesh were separated, so Punjab became a separate state in 1966. In northeast state also, they want their internal autonomy. A lot of issue in, because northeast was a very complex area, and no much care was given to the northeast state. But later on, as Meghalaya carved out of Assam in 1972 and became a separate state. Manipur, Tripura also created at the same year when Meghalaya was created in 1972. Later Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh was came in being in 1987. So states demand was again and again was a major issue in India. In later 2000, Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand was formed. So these states were formed. After is this Telangana, 29th, another state was formed. So these are the challenges that states were demanding. Even today, when these states was created, we have we have 28 state now in 2024 25, but states still demanding their own identity. On regionalism was very increased later on, as in 1970s, 1980. We will pass on for in further chapters. We will study how these regionalism emerged and as an identity. They call themselves son of soil. What does it mean? Like Haryana special culture, their own reservation, demanding their own state, their own reservation. So every state Bundelkhandi culture. So later on also regional demand were so much that everyone wanted their own state, their own demand. So these are the very much challenges for India's, how we will satisfy these states and how we will integrate, because India was a federal and a unitary basis state, because we will give us state autonomy but under the center. So we had granted states with autonomy. We had formed some of the state on the religious basis, on the administration basis, by the State Organization Act, but we had to take care, and these state would not compromise the national identity, our nation as an India. So our most and foremost idea was, we wanted to create a nation, a India, a sovereign democratic nation, not a federal nation, not a purely federal body. We want a nation that is unitary in spirit and culture. So these are the first and foremost challenge in front of government, that how we will address the regional inequality issue and within that democratic framework. So India successfully tried to solve these issues, its reforms and policies. So these are the things that I had to tell you. These all from my side, that what you had to study. And the next thing is MCQ based question I have framed for you. These are PYQs also, the last year came. So you can solve this question for your own, and some of the new question for mock test also you can go for questions given online also. So these are the questions that I had framed for you. There are approximately 11 question total. So you can solve this question, and you can check your NCRT 12th class book for better preparation. It will also help you a lot in fetch marks. So these all things from my side. You can carry your exam preparation.